I could smell death on him the moment he entered the great hall. The scent cut through everything else. The pine smoke from the hearth, the sweat of nervous courtiers, the winter chill clinging to fur-lined cloaks. Death had wrapped itself around King Dominic like a lover, invisible to everyone but me. My nostrils flared against my will, and I pressed deeper into the shadowed alcove where I'd been hiding since dawn. No one noticed. No one ever noticed me. As the weakest Omega in a court of powerful wolves, I had perfected the art of invisibility. My pale blonde hair was always tucked beneath modest caps, my eyes downcast, my movements calculated to attract no attention. The royal court of Ravenwood was no place for the fragile. I had learned that lesson through blood and tears. Make way for His Majesty, King Dominic. The herald's voice boomed across the vaulted ceiling, and the assembly parted like water breaking around stone. I clutched my grandmother's silver pendant against my chest, the only inheritance she'd left me besides her wisdom. Power comes in many forms, Eleanor. She'd whispered before death took her 3 winters ago. The quietest stream can carve the deepest canyon. The pendant felt warm against my palm, though whether from my body heat or something more mysterious, I couldn't tell. King Dominic moved with lethal grace despite the death scent clinging to him. His shoulders were broad beneath his black cloak, his face carved from granite, all sharp angles and unyielding planes. Power radiated from him in waves that made even the strongest alphas in the room lower their eyes. But I saw what they didn't, the slight hollowness beneath his cheekbones, the shadow behind his eyes. Whatever was killing him was doing so slowly, from the inside out. Our eyes met across the crowded hall, and my heart stuttered in my chest. It was impossible. I was hidden, insignificant. Yet his gaze locked onto mine with sudden, predatory focus. His pupils dilated, nostrils flaring as if catching a scent on the wind. Something passed across his face. Confusion, perhaps, or recognition, before his attention was claimed by his advisors. I pressed my hand against my mouth to trap the gasp threatening to escape. In 5 years of serving in the shadows of this court, King Dominic had never once looked at me. No one of his stature acknowledged Omegas like me, those whose shifting abilities were so weak we could barely manifest claws, let alone a full wolf form. We were the serving class, the forgotten, the barely tolerated, yet he had seen me, and something in that brief connection left me trembling. Eleanor! The sharp voice of Lady Sophia, the royal housekeeper, cut through my thoughts. Stop dawdling and fetch more wine. The King's Council meeting will begin shortly. I nodded quickly, cursing myself for being caught idle. Lady Sophia knew my worth, or lack thereof, and delighted in reminding me of it. Born to a disgraced noble family whose lands had been seized generations ago, I existed on her mercy and the palace's grudging charity. As I hurried toward the kitchens, weaving through groups of richly dressed nobles, snippets of conversation reached my ears. Third ambassador found dead this month. Northern borders unprotected. King refuses the binding ceremony. Needs an Omega mate before the solstice, or the curse will. The last fragment came from 2 elderly counselors who abruptly silenced themselves as I passed. I kept my expression carefully blank, though my mind raced. Everyone knew the legend of the Ravenwood Kings, how they must complete the soul-binding ritual with their true mate before their 30th year or suffer a wasting curse. I had assumed it was merely superstition until today, when I'd smelled death on our seemingly invincible king. The kitchens were chaos, servants rushing to prepare for the grand feast that would follow the council meeting. I grabbed a silver pitcher of wine, my hands still unsteady. "You look like you've seen a ghost," said Mira, one of the few kitchen workers who showed me kindness. Her dark eyes narrowed with concern. "Are you ill?" "I'm fine," I lied, balancing the heavy pitcher. "Just tired." "Well, brace yourself. The king's in a foul mood. Thomas said he nearly tore Lord Caldwell's throat out this morning for suggesting another Omega matchmaking ceremony." She leaned closer. "They say the curse is taking hold, that he's becoming more beast than man. That's why he's rejected every highborn Omega presented to him." I swallowed hard. "Surely that's just gossip," Mira shrugged. 3 servants have disappeared from his wing in the past month. Disappeared, Eleanor. No bodies, no explanations. A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the draft from the kitchen's stone walls. Before I could respond, Lady Sophia reappeared, her thin face pinched with annoyance. "The council chamber now, and for heaven's sake, make yourself invisible. These are matters of state, not for the ears of a worthless half-wolf." Half-wolf. The slur stung no matter how often I heard it. I followed her through the winding corridors, careful not to spill a drop of wine. The council chamber doors loomed ahead, carved with the Ravenwood Pack's emblem. A wolf howling beneath a crescent moon. 2 guards flanked the entrance, their eyes briefly scanning me before dismissing me as unimportant. Inside, 12 men sat around a massive oak table, with King Dominic at its head. A fire roared in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across tense faces. "The Northern Pack has refused our terms again," said Lord Reynard, the oldest councillor. His liver-spotted hand trembled as he placed a sealed letter on the table. "They say they will only negotiate with a king who has fulfilled the binding ritual. They question your stability, Your Majesty." A low growl rumbled from Dominic's chest, causing several councillors to flinch. I moved silently around the perimeter of the room, filling goblets without making eye contact. When I approached the king, my hands betrayed me, trembling so badly that droplets of red wine splashed onto the table's polished surface. "Forgive me, Your Majesty," I whispered, mortified. Instead of the anger I expected, a strange stillness came over him. He inhaled deeply, his eyes flashing amber, the wolf within him stirring. His hand shot out, fingers circling my wrist with frightening speed. Pain seared through my mind, images flooding in uninvited. A younger Dominic cradling a dying woman. Blood-soaked battlefields, a shadowed figure pronouncing words of power. And darkness, a creeping darkness consuming him from within. He released me instantly, looking as shocked as I felt. The council room had fallen silent. 12 pairs of eyes fixed on this unprecedented interaction. "Leave us," Dominic commanded, his voice like granite. "All of you." The councillors exchanged glances but rose without question. As they filed out, Lord Reynard's gaze lingered on me with sudden calculating interest that sent ice through my veins. When the heavy doors closed, I found myself alone with the Alpha King, clutching an empty wine pitcher like a shield. The death scent around him seemed stronger now, mingled with something else, a wild, desperate energy that made the air between us crackle. "Your name," he demanded. "Eleanor, Your Majesty." My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "Your family?" I swallowed hard. "None living, sire. I am ward of the court." He stood, and I fought the instinct to back away. He towered over me, his presence filling the room like a gathering storm. With deliberate slowness, he reached toward my face. I closed my eyes, bracing for I didn't know what. His fingers brushed my cheek with surprising gentleness. "You saw," he said, not a question. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze directly for the first time. The amber had receded, leaving eyes the color of a winter sky. "Yes," I admitted, throwing caution aside. "I saw death clinging to you. I saw a curse." His jaw tightened. "And that doesn't frighten you?" It was a test, though I didn't understand its purpose. "Everything frightens me, Your Majesty," I answered truthfully. "I've learned to live with fear as my constant companion." Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, perhaps. He took a step back, his shoulders rigid with tension. "You will attend me tonight," he said abruptly, "in my private chambers." Terror and something else, something I refused to name, bloomed in my chest. Everyone knew what happened to Omegas summoned to an Alpha's chambers, especially one fighting a curse that drove him toward the bestial. The disappeared servant suddenly made horrible sense. "Your Majesty, Not a request, Eleanor." His voice softened fractionally. "I give you my word. No harm will come to you." The words of a king should have reassured me. They didn't. But as he strode from the room without a backward glance, I knew I had no choice. Whatever connection had flared between us when our skin touched had changed something irrevocably. That night, as I made my way through the silent corridors toward the king's chambers, my grandmother's pendant felt impossibly heavy against my skin. "The quietest stream," I whispered to myself. clutching the silver talisman, but as I raised my hand to knock on the intricately carved door of the royal suite, I couldn't help but wonder if this particular stream was about to meet a waterfall, a plunge from which there would be no return. The door swung open before my knuckles could make contact, as if the king had been waiting, sensing my approach. The chamber beyond was not what I had expected. Instead of opulent luxury, I found austere functionality. A massive oak desk dominated one side, covered with maps and letters bearing broken seals. Weapons hung on the walls, not ceremonial pieces, but well-used swords and daggers that had tasted blood. King Dominic stood by a window, his broad back to me, silhouetted against the night sky. He had shed his formal attire, wearing only a simple black tunic and breeches, his feet bare on the stone floor. Without the crown and royal trappings, he looked both more human and somehow more dangerous. "Close the door," he said without turning. I obeyed, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged bird. The latch clicked with finality. "Your Majesty summoned me," I said, proud that my voice remained steady despite my fear. He turned then, and I had to suppress a gasp. The mask of control he maintained in public had slipped, revealing the toll of whatever battle he fought within. Deep shadows circled his eyes, and a fine sheen of sweat covered his forehead despite the room's chill. "You're different," he said, studying me with unsettling intensity. "I've had every noble-born Omega in 7 kingdoms paraded before me. Yet I noticed you, a servant, across a crowded hall." He moved closer, his movements fluid despite his obvious exhaustion. "Why is that, Eleanor?" My name in his mouth sounded like something precious, something forbidden. I dropped my gaze, staring at the worn carpet beneath my feet. "I don't know, Your Majesty." "Look at me when you speak," he commanded softly. I forced myself to meet his eyes, fighting against every submissive instinct bred into Omegas like me. "I truly don't know," I repeated. "I'm nothing special, barely a wolf at all, according to most." A bitter smile twisted his lips. "According to most." He gestured toward a chair near the hearth. "Sit, please." The please surprised me more than the command. I perched at the edge of the chair, hands folded tightly in my lap to hide their trembling. Dominic poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a decanter, offering one to me. I accepted it but didn't drink, watching as he downed his in a single swallow. "What do you know of the curse of the Ravenwood kings?" he asked abruptly. The question was dangerous. Court servants were forbidden from discussing royal matters, especially ancient magic that affected the ruling line. But his gaze demanded truth. "Only whispers, Your Majesty, that each king must complete a soul binding with his true mate before his 30th year, or suffer a wasting death." He nodded once. "In 3 days, I turn 30. His voice was matter-of-fact, as if discussing weather rather than his impending doom. "The curse has already taken hold, as you somehow perceived. Can't you just bind with someone? Any suitable Omega?" I ventured. A harsh laugh escaped him. "If only it were so simple. The binding must be with a true soul match, freely given and freely accepted. Magic can't be tricked, Eleanor." He poured himself another drink. "My ancestors created this safeguard centuries ago to ensure Ravenwood kings would always rule with their other half beside them, tempering power with compassion. A noble intention that has condemned me to death." "Because you haven't found your match," I whispered. "Because she doesn't exist." Bitterness edged his words. "Or if she does, she's well hidden." I thought of all the high-born Omegas who had visited the court in recent months. Beautiful, accomplished, desperate to become queen, all rejected. "What happens if the binding isn't completed?" I asked, though I feared I already knew. Dominic's eyes darkened. "The wolf consumes the man, piece by piece. The curse strips away humanity, until only the beast remains, a monster with a king's power and no restraint. Eventually, the royal guards are duty-bound to put down what remains." His gaze fixed on the flames dancing in the hearth. "My father suffered the same fate. I was 16 when I watched them burn his remains. Horror washed over me at the casual brutality of royal destiny. My own hardships seemed suddenly trivial compared to this inescapable death sentence. Without thinking, I reached out, my fingers brushing against his hand. Again, that flash of connection surged between us, this time bringing not pain but a momentary respite from it. The tension in his shoulders eased slightly, the crease between his brows softening. He looked at our joined hands with wonder before pulling away. "What are you?" he murmured. "I told you, I'm no one. Stop lying," he snapped, then immediately controlled himself. "Something happens when we touch. You feel it too." I couldn't deny it. "Yes." He began pacing, energy radiating from him in waves. "I've had the royal physician examine me. The court mage cast diagnostic spells. None have detected what you perceived instantly." He stopped, fixing me with that penetrating gaze. "How did you know I carried death? The truth seemed dangerous, but lying to my king seemed worse. I've always sensed things others don't. Energies, intentions, sicknesses." I twisted my grandmother's pendant nervously. My grandmother was the same. She called it the quiet gift. Useful, but best kept secret. "An empath," he said thoughtfully. "Rare among our kind. Rarer still in one with such weak shifting abilities." He approached again, circling me like a predator assessing prey. "Show me." "Show you?" "You're Wolf. I want to see the form you hide from the world." Shame burned through me. Of all the humiliations I had endured, this would be the worst, revealing my pathetic partial shift to the Alpha King himself. "Please," I whispered. "Don't ask this of me." His expression softened unexpectedly. "I'm not mocking you, Eleanor. I need to understand." With trembling hands, I removed my cap, letting my pale blonde hair fall to my shoulders. I closed my eyes, reaching for the wolf that had always been more shadow than substance within me. The partial transformation was painful, my body rebelling against its own nature. My nails lengthened slightly, teeth barely sharpening. The faintest dusting of fair fur appeared on my forearms, and my eyes, I knew without seeing them, would have shifted to a pale amber, the weakest manifestation of my wolf possible. I heard Dominic's sharp intake of breath and kept my eyes closed, unable to bear the disgust I would surely find on his face. "Look at me," he commanded, his voice strangely gentle. When I opened my eyes, I found not revulsion, but fascination in his gaze. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and traced the nearly invisible line of fur on my arm. "A half-shift," he murmured. "They call you half-wolf as an insult, but they don't understand what they're seeing." "And what are they seeing?" I asked, voice barely audible. Before he could answer, a sharp knock at the door broke the moment. Dominic's expression instantly hardened, the king's mask sliding back into place. "Enter," he called, stepping away from me. Lord Renard appeared, his eyes widening fractionally at my presence before his face smoothed into practiced neutrality. "Forgive the interruption, Your Majesty. An urgent message from the northern border." Dominic took the sealed parchment, breaking it open with one fluid motion. As he read, his expression darkened dangerously. "They've taken Fort Blackcliff," he said, voice deadly calm, "and threatened to execute the hostages unless I present myself with my true queen within a fortnight." His laugh held no humor. "Perfect timing. The council awaits your command, sire," Lord Renard said, his gaze sliding to me with calculation that made my skin crawl. "Shall I summon the war cabinet?" "Yes." Dominic's attention had already shifted, the weight of the kingdom settling visibly on his shoulders. "I'll join you shortly." When we were alone again, he turned to me with a gravity that sent shivers down my spine. "Return to your quarters, Eleanor. Speak of this conversation to no one." He hesitated, then added, "I may call for you again." "Yes, Your Majesty." I rose to leave, but a sudden wave of dizziness washed over me. Images flooded my mind, Lord Renard speaking with hooded figures, a knife glinting in candlelight, poisoned wine. I gripped the back of the chair, gasping. Dominic was at my side instantly, steadying me. "What is it? What do you see?" "Betrayal," I whispered, the vision fading as quickly as it had come. "Be careful who you trust tonight." "Lord Renard, there's darkness around him. Old alliances being reformed." His eyes narrowed. "You saw this?" I nodded, suddenly exhausted. "Sometimes the visions come. I can't control them." He studied me for a long moment before coming to some decision. "Tomorrow night, come to the old library in the East Wing. After midnight, when the castle sleeps. His fingers brushed my cheek, featherlight. Until then, stay in the shadows where you've learned to hide. Eyes open, Eleanor. The court grows dangerous for those connected to me. After he departed for his council meeting, I made my way back through the darkened corridors, my mind reeling from the evening's revelations. The weak Omega who had spent years avoiding notice had somehow caught the attention of the most dangerous man in the kingdom, a man marked for death by his own bloodline's magic. As I slipped into my small chamber in the servants' quarters, a sound from the shadows sent ice through my veins. Lady Sophia emerged from the darkness, her thin lips stretched in a smile that held no warmth. Well, she said softly. The mouse returns from the lion's den, still breathing. How unexpected. My lady, I said cautiously, I was merely serving the king as ordered. For 3 hours? Her eyebrow arched. Strange service indeed. She circled me slowly, her gaze calculating. Lord Renard was most interested to learn of your private audience with His Majesty. Especially now, with the binding deadline so close. My heart stuttered. Whatever Lord Renard suspected about me couldn't be good, not with the treacherous intentions I'd glimpsed surrounding him. I'm nothing to interest Lord Renard, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. A servant girl with barely enough wolf blood to merit a place in this court. Lady Sophia's laugh was brittle. Such modesty. Her hand shot out, fingers gripping my chin painfully. Listen carefully, girl. The king's condition worsens by the day. Powerful people have plans for the succession that don't include complications. Her nails dug into my skin. Whatever connection you think exists between you and King Dominic, sever it. Tonight was your only warning. After she left, I sank onto my narrow bed, trembling. In the span of a single day, my carefully constructed invisibility had shattered. Worse, I now knew things no servant should know, about curses and betrayals, and a king fighting his own nature. I touched my grandmother's pendant, seeking comfort in its familiar weight. The quietest stream can carve the deepest canyon, I whispered to myself. But streams could also be diverted, dammed, poisoned at their source. As I drifted into uneasy sleep, King Dominic's face haunted my dreams, proud and fierce and increasingly wolf-like, reaching for something just beyond his grasp while shadows closed in around him. And somehow, impossibly, I stood at the edge of those shadows, my hand outstretched toward his. Though whether to save him or join him in the darkness, I couldn't tell. I spent the following day in a state of hypervigilance, feeling eyes on me wherever I went. The castle buzzed with rumors of the northern attack, servants huddling in corners to whisper about war and the king's declining health. Twice I glimpsed Lord Renard in deep conversation with royal guards, their expressions grim and purposeful. Each time, he seemed to sense my gaze, turning to fix me with a stare that made my blood run cold. By nightfall, a storm had rolled in from the mountains, rain lashing against the stone walls like nature itself sensed the coming conflict. Lightning illuminated the corridors in brief, ghostly flashes as I made my way to the east wing, heart pounding in rhythm with the thunder. The old library had been largely abandoned since the new royal collection was established in the western tower. Dust shrouded the ancient tomes, and cobwebs draped the high windows like tattered lace. I slipped inside, closing the heavy oak door behind me. You came. King Dominic's voice emerged from the shadows before I saw him. He sat at a table piled with yellowed scrolls and leather-bound books, a single oil lamp casting a warm glow over the ancient texts. In the dim light, the changes in him were more pronounced, his features sharper, more lupine, his movements containing a predatory fluidity that was both beautiful and terrifying. You doubted I would? I asked, stepping closer. I thought perhaps Lady Sophia's threats might have deterred you. I stiffened. You knew about that? A dangerous smile touched his lips. Little happens in my castle without my knowledge. He gestured to the chair opposite him. Though, until recently, even I had overlooked you, a mistake I'm now rectifying. I sat, noticing the dark circles beneath his eyes had deepened. The scent of death clung more heavily to him tonight, mingled with something wild and primal. The curse's progression was accelerating. "What did you discover about Lord Reynard?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. "Correspondence with the Northern Alpha. Plans for a regency council after my incapacitation." His tone was matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather rather than his own betrayal. "Your vision proved accurate. The wine at last night's council meeting was indeed poisoned. Not to kill, but to hasten the curse's effects." Horror washed over me. "Did you drink it?" "No." His gaze held mine. "Thanks to your warning." A silence stretched between us, broken only by the storm's fury outside. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the library's forgotten grandeur and casting harsh shadows across Dominic's increasingly feral features. "You're getting worse," I whispered. He didn't deny it. 2 days remain until the deadline. The wolf grows stronger as the man weakens. His hands clenched on the table, knuckles white with strain. "Last night I nearly killed a guard who startled me. My control slips." "And you've found nothing in your research? No alternative to the binding?" He gestured at the scattered texts. "Ancient histories, spell books, private journals of past kings. All confirm what I already knew. The binding must occur with a true mate, or the curse runs its course." His laugh was hollow. "My ancestors were thorough in their magic. No loopholes, no exceptions. And you're certain your true mate doesn't exist?" His gaze sharpened. "If she existed, don't you think I would have found her, felt her? Every unbonded Omega in 7 kingdoms has been presented to me." Bitterness edged his words. "The binding requires a spark of recognition, a soul-deep connection that can't be manufactured or forced." I thought of the strange energy that passed between us whenever we touched, but quickly dismissed the ridiculous notion. A servant girl with a defective wolf could never be the true mate of an alpha king. Such things happened in children's tales, not reality. "Why am I here?" I asked finally, unable to bear the weight of his gaze. "How can I help?" He leaned forward, the lamplight casting his face half in shadow. "Your empathic abilities, they're stronger than you realize, Eleanor. Last night, you didn't just sense the curse, you temporarily eased it when you touched me." He extended his hand across the table, palm up. "I want to try something." Hesitantly, I placed my hand in his. The connection sparked instantly, not painful this time, but warm and strangely comforting. I gasped as images flowed between us. A young Dominic running wild through forest paths, the crushing weight of the crown being placed on his head, blood and battle, loneliness that cut deeper than any blade. And beneath it all, the curse. A dark, writhing thing wrapped around his soul, squeezing tighter with each passing hour. Instinctively, I reached for that darkness with my mind, trying to understand its nature. The curse recoiled from my mental touch like smoke disturbed by wind. Dominic's grip on my hand tightened, his breathing ragged. "What are you doing?" he whispered hoarsely. "I don't know," I admitted. "I can see it, the curse. It's like living shadow." I concentrated harder, visualizing my consciousness as light pushing against the darkness. The shadow retreated slightly, and Dominic made a sound between pain and relief. When I finally withdrew my hand, exhaustion crashed over me. Dominic looked equally drained, but the tension in his shoulders had eased, and his features appeared marginally less wolf-like. "You pushed it back," he said, wonder in his voice. "Temporarily, but still." He studied me with new intensity. "No one has ever managed that before." I slumped in my chair, suddenly lightheaded. "I don't understand how I did it." "Your grandmother's gift must be stronger in you than anyone realized. Perhaps because your wolf is weaker, your other abilities compensated." He rose, moving to a cabinet across the room and returning with a dusty bottle and 2 glasses. He poured amber liquid into both, sliding one toward me. "Drink. It will help restore your strength." The brandy burned pleasantly down my throat, bringing warmth back to my limbs. Outside, the storm continued its assault, rain hammering against the windows with renewed fury. "I need your help, Eleanor," Dominic said after a long silence. Not just for myself, but for the kingdom. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. The Northern Pack senses weakness. If I fall to the curse, Ravenwood will be vulnerable. Civil war is inevitable, with Lord Reynard and others scrambling for power. What can I possibly do? I asked, genuinely bewildered. I'm no warrior, no strategist. You can buy me time. His voice dropped lower. With your ability to temporarily push back the curse, I might maintain control long enough to secure the borders and expose Reynard's treachery. His fingers brushed against mine. A few days of clarity could mean the difference between stability and chaos. The weight of his request settled over me like a cloak of lead. You're asking me to… what? Use my abilities to keep you human? I'm asking you to help me die as a king, not a beast, he corrected quietly. To give Ravenwood a fighting chance at peaceful succession. My heart constricted painfully in my chest. Despite the impossibility of it, despite knowing him for barely 2 days, the thought of his death felt like a blade between my ribs. I blamed my Omega nature. We were hardwired to respond to alpha distress, especially from one as powerful as Dominic. That's all it was. It had to be. I'll try, I whispered. But I don't know if it will work again, or for how long. Relief softened his features, that's all I ask. He hesitated, then added, There's risk to you in this. If Reynard discovers your ability to affect the curse, he'll see you as a threat to his plans. I've been invisible my whole life, I said with a bitter smile. I know how to avoid notice. Not anymore. Dominic's gaze was penetrating. Something about you calls to me, Eleanor. If I've noticed, others will too. He reached across the table, his fingers tracing the line of my cheek with surprising gentleness. You should leave Ravenwood, tonight. I can arrange safe passage to the Southern Territories. The suggestion startled me. You just asked for my help and now you want me to leave? I want you safe. The fierceness in his voice made me shiver. Your abilities are rare and valuable. After I'm gone, don't, I interrupted, surprising us both. Don't speak of your death as if it's certain. A sad smile touched his lips. 3 decades of Ravenwood kings have sought loopholes in this curse. All failed. Perhaps they didn't have the right help, I said, more boldly than I felt. His expression softened into something that might have been tenderness. Hope is a dangerous thing, little Omega. Before I could respond, the library door burst open. 4 royal guards stood in the entrance, Lord Reynard between them. His thin lips curved in triumph as his gaze moved from the king to me. Forgive the intrusion, Your Majesty, he said smoothly. But matters of state security couldn't wait until morning. Dominic stood, power and authority radiating from him despite the curse's visible effects. Explain yourself, Reynard. The older man's smile didn't reach his cold eyes. We've uncovered a plot against your life, sire. A northern spy in our midst. His gaze shifted meaningfully to me. This Omega has been communicating with our enemies. Ice flooded my veins. That's a lie! Silence, Reynard hissed. We found these in her quarters. He nodded to a guard, who stepped forward with a small bundle of papers bearing northern seals. Correspondence regarding Your Majesty's condition. Information only someone with intimate access would possess. Dominic's expression remained unreadable. Serious accusations require serious evidence, Lord Reynard. He extended his hand. Show me these letters. As Reynard moved forward, a change came over Dominic. Subtle but unmistakable. His posture shifted, becoming more predatory. The wolf was rising, responding to threat. Your Majesty, I said softly, desperately. Remember your control. His eyes met mine briefly, something like gratitude flickering in their depths, before he turned back to Reynard. With deliberate calm, he examined the letters, his expression darkening as he read. These are forgeries, he said finally. Clever ones, but forgeries nonetheless. Reynard's confidence didn't waver. With respect, sire, how can you be certain? The curse affects judgment as well as body. The council is concerned that outside influences might be clouding your perception. His gaze slid to me again, particularly Omega influences. I felt the temperature in the room drop as Dominic's control slipped further. A low growl rumbled from his chest, causing the guards to step back instinctively. "Careful, Renard," he said, voice barely human. "You tread dangerously close to treason." "It is to prevent treason that we act, Your Majesty." Renard signaled to the guards. "Take the girl to the northern tower for questioning. Ensure she's comfortable until the king's condition stabilizes and he can see matters more clearly." The guards moved toward me, uncertainty in their expressions, but determination in their stance. They feared Dominic, but they feared the curse more, and Renard had planted seeds of doubt about the king's judgment. "Stop." Dominic's command froze everyone in place. The air around him seemed to shimmer with barely contained violence. "Eleanor remains under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me." His smile was all predator, directly and immediately. The standoff stretched, tension crackling in the air like the lightning outside. I could feel Dominic's control fraying with each passing second. If he transformed now, attacked the guards, it would only confirm Renard's insinuations about his deteriorating state. I had to do something. "I'll go," I said, rising from my chair. "I have nothing to hide, Lord Renard. Question me as you wish." Dominic's head snapped toward me, disbelief and something like betrayal flashing across his features. "Your Majesty," I continued, holding his gaze steadily, trying to convey what I couldn't say aloud. "Trust that I know what I'm doing. Some streams run deeper than they appear. Remember?" Understanding dawned in his eyes, along with reluctant admiration. He inclined his head slightly, though every line of his body radiated the desire to fight. "Very well," he said tightly. "But Lord Renard will report directly to me within the hour, and the girl will not be harmed." The last words carried the weight of deadly promise. As the guards escorted me from the library, I caught one final glimpse of Dominic over my shoulder. Our eyes met, and in that brief connection, I felt it again. That inexplicable bond that had formed between us against all logic and propriety. I straightened my spine as we climbed the winding stairs to the northern tower. Renard had miscalculated if he thought me an easy target. I might be a weak Omega physically, but my grandmother had taught me other strengths: patience, observation, and the power of being underestimated. As the cell door closed behind me with an ominous clang, I touched my grandmother's pendant, drawing courage from its familiar weight. "The quietest stream carves the deepest canyon," I whispered to myself, "and sometimes," I added silently, "it washes away the foundations of those who never bothered to notice its persistence." The northern tower cell was cold, stone walls slick with dampness from the ongoing storm. A single barred window provided glimpses of lightning tearing across the night sky, momentarily illuminating my prison with harsh blue-white light. I paced the small space, forcing down panic. Renard would come soon, expecting to find me broken and terrified. Instead, I needed to be the hunter, not the prey. Through the window, I could see the palace grounds far below. Guards moved with unusual purpose, torches bobbing like fireflies in the darkness. Something was happening. Something beyond my imprisonment. The cell door scraped open, and I steeled myself, expecting Renard. Instead, a hooded figure slipped inside, closing the door quietly. "We don't have much time," said a familiar voice as the hood fell back, revealing Mira's concerned face. The kitchen worker glanced nervously over her shoulder. "The castle's in chaos. Rumors say the king has lost control, attacked Lord Renard and locked himself in the royal chambers." My heart sank. Without my presence to calm the curse, Dominic's wolf was ascending faster. "Why are you here?" I asked, though gratitude warmed my voice. "Lady Sophia sent me." At my startled expression, she added, "She's not what you think. None of us are." She pressed something cool and metallic into my palm. A key. "The eastern stairwell is unguarded. Make for the king's chambers. Quickly." "I don't understand." "There's no time to explain." Mira pulled her hood back up. "Lady Sophia said to tell you, the pendant was never just silver. My fingers flew to my grandmother's necklace, the only possession I'd kept after her death. I'd always sensed power in it, but assumed it was merely sentimental attachment." "What does that mean?" I demanded. Mira shook her head. "I'm just the messenger. Go now, before the guards return." She slipped out, leaving the door unlocked behind her. Bewildered but determined, I crept down the eastern stairwell as instructed. The castle was indeed in tumult. Servants rushing with bundles, nobles arguing in corridors, guards clustered in tense formation. No one paid attention to a small, pale-haired Omega moving swiftly through the shadows. As I neared the royal chambers, the chaos intensified. A crowd had gathered, councilmen, nobles, guards with weapons drawn. Above their fearful murmurs rose Lord Renard's commanding voice. "The king is fully consumed by the curse. The beast has taken control." His face bore fresh claw marks, blood still seeping from 3 parallel gashes across his cheek. "By law and necessity, I assume temporary regency until the situation is resolved." "And how exactly do you plan to resolve it?" demanded a voice from the crowd. Lady Sophia, her thin frame radiating unexpected authority. Renard's expression hardened. "The traditional way. When a Ravenwood king succumbs to the curse, the beast must be put down." He gestured to the guards. "At dawn, we breach the chambers and do what must be done." Horror swept through me. Dawn was only hours away. "And the northern threat?" Lady Sophia challenged. "Their forces gather at our borders, waiting for precisely this weakness. A situation I have well in hand," Renard replied smoothly. "Terms are being negotiated as we speak. Surrender," I thought bitterly. He's bargaining away pieces of the kingdom to secure his position. I needed to reach Dominic, but royal guards blocked every approach to his chambers. As I hovered in the shadows, considering my options, a hand clamped over my mouth, dragging me backward into an alcove. "Foolish girl," Lady Sophia hissed in my ear. "Not that entrance." When she released me, I whirled to face her, ready to fight. The older woman's expression stopped me, not malice, but fierce determination. "I don't understand," I whispered. "You threatened me. I warned you," she corrected. "There's a difference." She glanced around, ensuring we weren't observed. "Your grandmother was my cousin. The quiet gift runs in our bloodline, though mine manifests differently than yours." My mind reeled with the implications. "You knew what I was?" I suspected. "When the king noticed you across the hall, something no alpha should be able to do with a weak Omega. I was certain." Her thin fingers clasped my wrist. "Listen carefully. There's a servant's passage behind the west bookcase in the royal anteroom. The guard there owes me a debt. He'll let you pass, but only you. And only once." "Why are you helping me now?" Her eyes held ancient sadness. "Because your grandmother and I made a vow to protect the last true Ravenwood queen, no matter the cost." At my confused expression, she touched my pendant. "This belonged to the last queen, your ancestor. Before the royal line was usurped 3 centuries ago, the world seemed to tilt beneath my feet." "That's impossible. I'm nobody. You're the descendant of Queen Alara, whose mate was murdered by the first false king. She escaped with their unborn child, her lineage protected by those loyal to the true throne." Sophia's voice dropped lower. "Why do you think your wolf seems weak? The magic that hides royal bloodlines always manifests as diminished power, a protection against detection." The pendant felt suddenly heavy against my skin. "If what you say is true, why reveal this now? Because the curse that afflicts the false kings can only be broken by a descendant of the true line." Her eyes burned with centuries of patience finally bearing fruit. "Your kiss won't just save Dominic's soul. It will restore what was broken, if he proves worthy." Distant shouting pulled her attention away. "Go," she urged. "The guard's name is Thomas. Say the stream returns to its true course, and he'll understand." Still reeling, I moved through the crowded corridors toward the western anteroom. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. "The quietest stream can carve the deepest canyon." She hadn't been offering comfort to a weak Omega. She'd been reminding me of my hidden heritage, my true purpose. The western anteroom was guarded by a single man, young but stern-faced, his hand resting on his sword hilt. When our eyes met, something like recognition flashed across his features. "The stream returns to its true course," I whispered. Without a word, he stepped aside, revealing a narrow gap behind the bookcase. As I slipped through, he murmured, "For the true queen, So softly I nearly missed it. The passage was dark and confining, forcing me to feel my way along rough stone walls. It emptied into what must have been Dominic's bedchamber, a space now transformed by destruction. Furniture lay splintered, tapestries hung in shreds, and deep claw marks scored the walls. In the center of the devastation stood Dominic, or what remained of him. The transformation had progressed far beyond what I'd witnessed before. His body was caught in a horrifying half-shift, too wolf-like to be human, too human to be truly wolf. His clothes hung in tatters, and his eyes glowed amber in the darkness, fixed on me with primal intensity. A low growl rumbled from his throat as I stepped closer. "Dominic," I said softly. "It's Eleanor." He circled me warily, muscles coiled to spring. The curse had nearly completed its work. The man I'd known was disappearing beneath a beast. Yet something in those amber eyes still recognized me, still fought against the darkness consuming him. "I know what I am now," I continued, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. "And I think I know what you are to me." Another growl, this one less threatening, more confused. I reached for my pendant, understanding finally its true purpose. It had never been merely silver. It was a royal heirloom, a talisman of true Ravenwood power. As my fingers closed around it, warmth spread through my palm, up my arm, through my entire body. The sensation was like nothing I'd ever experienced, as if a dam had broken inside me, releasing power long constrained. My skin tingled, vision sharpening, senses expanding. The weak, partial shift I'd known my entire life gave way to something new, something complete and strong and undeniable. I felt my wolf rise within me, not the stunted creature I'd always known, but a true, royal wolf, silver-white and powerful. Not an Omega's wolf at all, but something rarer, a Luna wolf, meant to balance an alpha, not submit to him. Dominic froze, his nostrils flaring as he caught my changed scent. Confusion warred with recognition in those feral eyes. "The curse isn't your bloodline's fate," I said, taking another step closer. "It's punishment for stolen power. A throne taken by force rather than by right." I extended my hand slowly. "Your ancestors killed my ancestor's mate and claimed her throne. But the magic of Ravenwood never forgot the true line." Understanding dawned in his eyes, the man momentarily winning against the beast. "Ilara's line," he rasped, his voice barely human. "Lost, believed extinct. Hidden," I corrected gently. "Protected, until the time was right." Another step closer. We were within touching distance now, his ragged breathing audible over the storm's fury outside. The curse's darkness swirled around him visibly to my enhanced senses, a writhing shadow trying desperately to complete its work before I could interfere. "You once asked if your true mate existed," I whispered. "She does. The curse could only be broken by binding with the true Ravenwood heir, bringing together what was wrongfully separated." His clawed hand lifted, hovering near my face but not touching. "Too late," he growled, pain lacing the words. "Beast. Taking over." "Not yet." I captured his hand, pressing it against my cheek. The connection flared between us, stronger than before, nearly overwhelming in its intensity. Images cascaded through my mind, not just Dominic's memories now, but older ones. Ancestral memories of betrayal, murder, a pregnant queen fleeing into the night, generations of hidden heirs carrying the weight of forgotten royalty, and through it all, the curse, not just killing Dominic, but fulfilling its purpose across centuries, pushing false kings toward the very nature that had allowed the first usurper to take the throne, the beast revealing the beast within. "The binding," Dominic managed, fighting for every word, "won't work if forced." "It won't be forced," I assured him. "Despite everything, the deception of your ancestors, the suffering of mine, I choose you, Dominic." The truth of it resonated through my entire being. "The stream has carved its canyon. Our paths were always meant to converge." His eyes cleared slightly, the man gaining momentary advantage over the wolf. "Why? After what my bloodline did to yours?" "Because you're different. You fight your nature. You protected me when you could have used me." I stepped closer still, my free hand rising to touch his face. And because I've been invisible my entire life, except to you. You saw me, Dominic, when no one else did. The curse thrashed violently around him, sensing its imminent defeat. Dominic doubled over, a howl of agony tearing from his throat as the beast made its final push for dominance. I knew what I had to do. Guided by instinct older than memory, I pressed my lips to his, not in submission, but in claiming. The kiss was gentle at first, then fierce as the magic awakened between us. True mate recognizing true mate across centuries of separation, light exploded outward from where we touched. Blinding in its intensity, the curse's darkness shattered like glass, dissolving into nothingness as ancient magic fulfilled its purpose. The binding, the true binding between rightful Ravenwood rulers, sent power surging through the castle, through the very land itself. When the light faded, Dominic stood before me fully human again. The wolf receded, the curse broken. His eyes, clear blue now, without a trace of amber, stared at me in wonder. "Eleanor," he breathed, as if seeing me truly for the first time. "Ilara," I corrected softly. "My true name is Ilara, though I didn't know it until tonight." His hands framed my face with reverent care. "My queen," he whispered, "hidden in the shadows all this time." "As was your salvation," I replied, my voice stronger than it had ever been. The door to the royal chambers burst open, guards pouring in with weapons drawn, Lord Renard at their head. They froze at the sight before them, their king restored, standing hand in hand with the servant girl who was suddenly something far more. "Impossible," Renard breathed, his face ashen. "The true queen returns," announced Lady Sophia from the doorway, her voice ringing with triumph, 3 centuries in the making. "And with her, the rightful rule of Ravenwood is restored." Understanding dawned on Renard's face, quickly followed by calculation. "Guards," he commanded, "seize them both. The king is bewitched. Enough, Renard." Dominic's voice carried the full weight of his authority, power radiating from him in waves that had nothing to do with curses or beasts. "Your regency ends before it began." The guards hesitated, looking between Renard and their transformed king. One by one they lowered their weapons, some dropping to one knee in recognition of what they could sense but not fully understand. The rightness that had returned to Ravenwood after centuries of imbalance. As dawn broke outside, casting golden light through the shattered windows, Dominic turned to me, his expression solemn. "The northern forces still gather at our borders," he said. "We face war, betrayal from within, and a kingdom that must learn its true history." I smiled, feeling strength flow through me, not the power of a weak Omega who had somehow caught an Alpha's attention, but the birthright of a queen too long hidden in shadow. "Then we face it together," I said, my hand finding his, "as Ravenwood was always meant to be ruled." His answering smile held promise, determination, and something that made my heart race, a future I had never dared imagine with a man I had been destined to find. The kiss that sealed our bond was no longer about breaking curses, but building something new from ancient foundations. A reign that would begin, as all true stories do, with justice, truth, and love finally emerging from the shadows.